I don't know about you, but today seems like a Shibumi type of day. Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for You. And you know what? When a review starts with that in the background, you know it's going to be pretty awesome. Today we are going to be reviewing the Shibumi Sunshade. So, without further ado, let's get right into the review. Before we actually tear into this bag, I wanted you to see this right here. The Shibumi Sunshade is actually sewn in North Carolina. The company actually has a pretty cool story, started by two brothers and their best friend who just wanted to find the best type of sunshade for the beach. The Shibumi itself is made up of what's called a ripstop parachute material. It feels just like a thin nylon. Of course, you see the two colors. It's this aqua or teal, and then of course the blue. The company says these are the two colors that they are going to make Shibumi in because these two colors are what they are reminded of when they think of the ocean. As you can see, here are our aluminum poles, and of course they are held together with elastic. The company does recommend to try to keep as much sand off the poles when you collapse it as possible. They even go far as to say when you get home, open it back up and dust off all the sand and make sure you can rinse them off every once in a while with fresh water. These do come in two different sizes. This is the larger one, and it will give you 150 square feet of shade. There's also the Mini, which provides you 75 square feet of shade. So the company recommends that you have at least 2 miles an hour of wind. Right now I don't know if I have that much, but we're going to try it out. So our first step is actually to string up the pole through the Shibumi. We're just going to assemble the pole. It's all one big pole structure that has like an elastic band in the middle. So just go about putting them all into place, making sure that the two black ends touch each other. Do that the whole pole, and then we'll stick it through the sleeve. The next step is to slide the pole through the sleeve entirely from one end to the other. A couple of times I've done this, I've gotten caught right here on the string, so just be careful to push it all the way through until you get to the other end. Before I put it up, I like to make sure that I have an even amount of pole showing on either end just so it looks straight. So as I was setting it up out here, I got a tip from a frequent Shibumi user that told me when you lay it down to this point, you measure it out halfway and you wrap your straps around the post so they don't slip when you put it up. I'll show you what that looks like up close. All right, so we're just gonna wrap this around the pole. You can see right here, this has like a rubber grip, so that goes on the pole side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wrap this around a few times, and then at the end, I'm gonna stretch it and snap it in place. Now we are locked in and this thing won't slide. So we have about 15 mile an hour winds right now, so it's the ideal time to put up the Shibumi. Let's take the first corner, put it in at an angle about 6 inches down. I'm gonna work my way across to the other side. Same angle. This right now is about a little over 6 feet tall. They say the ideal is between 6.5 to 7 feet, but you definitely want this arc not to put pressure on the poles. So if you don't like the height that you have it currently set at, you are able to bring the poles up and bring it back in. Remember putting them down about 6 inches, but they recommend not going above that 7 foot line, and I think that's right about where we are right now. So this is what it should look like ideally. All right, your last step is this counterbalance. Take this bag that you have and fill it with sand. Mine seemed to unroll a little bit, and that's okay. So I'm just gonna stick some sand in and throw this forward, and that's just to keep it down in case we get a lot of wind. Although not recommended by the manufacturer, I've actually brought mine up so it's about an 8 foot height. What I like about this is it seems to catch more wind than if I had it lower. Now, like I said before, the manufacturer recommends not doing this because, well, it could put pressure on the poles. I just like it because it takes up a smaller footprint. The Shibumi Shade does provide a lot of shade when there's wind. It's also pretty easy to move. Like if I notice the wind is starting to move, I can pop up and change the direction of my sunshade altogether. As you can see, I was setting this up by myself, which was really easy to do. Now, if you're setting this up around other people, make sure you have someone help, because if I'm setting up this pole, that pole could end up hitting someone, and you don't want to do that. So tell me, what are your thoughts of this Shibumi sunshade, especially when the wind stops? Is this something that you would be interested in getting? Do you have one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Here is our Shibumi out here at the beach. As you see, we have to have it slanted sideways because the wind just was not picking up from the front. So we turn to the side and it's rolling out real nice. We have our Weekapo blanket underneath. The disappointing part is when the wind goes away because you don't have a Shibumi anymore. You just have a blanket in your face. Right now I'm sitting here with the wind speed of about 4 miles an hour as per the weather channel or the weather report, and this thing is just draped on top of me, not even blowing up. Oh, there it goes. So it does get frustrating when, I don't know, the wind stops. So here we are, day 3 with the Shibumi sunshade, and I wanted to give you a perspective of the sunshade if you are someone behind it. It's not very forgiving as far as the view, so just be aware if you're setting this up in front of people, you're definitely going to block their view of the ocean. All right, you take it down and put it away. You reverse the steps, pull the one pole out, come all the way down, pull the other pole out. Now I'm going to take apart the straps that I had here on the sides. Now that I have both sides unstrapped, I can take out the pole. I'll do it this way. Take out the pole entirely. I still have sand in the bag just so my Shibumi doesn't blow away. So I'm going to pull this apart to get ready to put back in the bag. Once I'm done here, then I'll dump the bag and I'll show you how I put it away. All right, we just finished dumping the sand out. Now I'm going to turn the bag right side out again so the Shibumi logo is on the outside. And we're really just going to stuff in the shade into the bag. You can take time to fold it, but to be honest with you, if you have a little bit of wind, you're not going to have a lot of cooperation from the shade. So I'm literally just stuffing this into the bag. There are actually 2 compartments on the inside of the bag, one for the sunshade and one for the poles. So I'm going to keep doing this part, and then we'll put the poles away. All right, so the sunshade is put away. Right here is the second pouch where you're just going to stick your poles in. They slide down pretty easily all the way down. Now I can cinch this shut and walk away with it. In this video, we were looking at the Shibumi sunshade. You know what? Fun fact, Shibumi actually means effortless perfection. Anyway, what did I think of the sunshade? Well, first things first, let's talk about that price point. $250 for one of these things. That is very expensive. Even if you go down to the Mini, $190, that is a lot of money for the tent or the sunshade that you end up getting. In my opinion, the price point is going to keep the sunshades out of the hands of, well, a lot of people. Now let's talk about the actual use of the sunshade. It is very easy to set up. I mean, just a quick pull through the sunshade and stick it in, and there you go, fill the bag with sand, and you're done. However, this thing is very dependent on wind. And although the directions tell you that you should be about 2 miles an hour, I found that when I was at 4 and even 5 miles an hour wind, nothing. This thing was just a tarp in front of my face, and that was very frustrating. Before Shibumi, I never really thought about the wind while going to the beach, because who thinks about wind? You always have wind at the beach, but not all wind is the same. The first week that I used this, about 50% of the time, that thing was just draped down in front of me like a wall, blocking the beach. It was hot and just no fun. Whereas the other 50%, that thing was flapping strong in the wind. Fast forward a couple weeks later, a different beach, and that thing was just up and sailing almost every day. So it really does depend on the wind that you have the day you're at the beach. The company actually says, you know what, you get more wind after the 12 o'clock hour, so between 8 and 12, you might want to stay away from the beach, and that also is kind of disappointing because I like to be at the beach first thing in the morning, so it's just another thing you need to note. During my journeys at the beach, I was able to interview a few people and get their perception of the Shibumi, and for the most part, people loved it. They didn't care that it draped down sometimes because the wind just picked up, and they thought it's lightweight, provides a lot of shade, and it was really cool for them. Just so you know, most of the people out there really like it. There were a few people that said, man, when this is draped down, it is frustrating, but it's just because there's no wind. I will say, although I was nervous at times to see that thing flapping, it was impressive when you got a 10, 15 mile an hour sustained wind and those umbrellas and tents were blowing down. That Shibumi was just flapping right there in the winds and it didn't go anywhere. That was pretty cool. You know what else was cool? This was actually invented right in the United States in North Carolina by a few friends who just wanted to have a better tent at the beach. So that's pretty cool as well. Anyway, this product is only sold on the Shibumi website right now, so I will leave a link down in the description. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. I happened to stumble upon another Shibumi user here at the beach, and they were so kind to let me film their Shibumi. As you can see, it does the exact same thing as the big one. It's just a little smaller. It's important to note that when this thing is blowing, you definitely hear a flapping noise. The Shibumi is meant to withstand up to 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, and the company does say, or they recommend, don't use it and higher winds than that, or at least prolonged winds of that speed. They also say that if it flaps over time, this starts to fray and rip, there are patch kits that they will give you absolutely free. You just have to reach out and contact them. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review of the Shibumi Sunshade. You know what? In this video, I actually referenced that sandless blanket called the Wikapo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link that review right up here, and I would love it if you would click on this link. And when you do, by the magic of the internet, I'm going to join you at this review. So go ahead, click it. It's safe. I promise.